The REvil ransomware group gets arrested, Ukraine is facing a slew of cyber attacks, and millions of routers are affected by a remote code execution flaw. All that coming up now on ThreatWire. Greetings! I am Shannon Morse, and this is ThreatWire for January 18th, 2022. This is your summary of the threats to our security, privacy, and internet freedom. A huge thank you to my supporters over at patreon.com/ThreatWire. Patrons get a new perk starting this month. Now all of my Alliance members on Patreon will get early access to the show on YouTube before anybody else gets to see the show. And you keep this show ad-free. January is always a tough month because a lot of people drop out of Patreon after the holiday season, so any contribution helps and you get all the perks with it. So it's a win-win. We have a lot of news happening this week out of Europe, so let's go ahead and get into the first news story. After US authorities reported findings about the REvil ransomware gang and their leader, leading to an arrest in November of 2021, the Russian Federation's Federal Security Service reported that they have arrested 14 alleged members and raided 25 locations in an effort to shut down the group. The FSB also reportedly confiscated over 6 million USD worth of a combination of euros, US dollars, and rubles, along with cryptocurrency wallets and physical goods such as luxury vehicles and computer equipment. 8 of the defendants have been publicly named via Moscow's court documentation. They will be in jail for 2 months while an investigation is underway. The FSB reported the news in a press release, and they shared it with US authorities. They stated they identified all members of the REvil group and established how they participated in illegal payments, which include committing crimes under Part 2 of Article 187 of the Criminal Code of Russia. Committing a crime under this code carries a 5 to 8 year prison sentence. Because of this takedown, the FSB says the group now ceases to exist and was neutralized, although some people believe the arrested people may be low-level affiliates. But according to the Washington Post, one of the people arrested and seen in a video of one of the raids was actually the person behind the Colonial Pipeline attack, and White House officials later confirmed that this was indeed true. If this indeed was the closure of the REvil story, that means the group operated for about 2 years. Eventually, they were stuck in US crosshairs because of Kaseya, which hit over 1,500 businesses. President Biden urged Putin to do something about it and take action against the attacks and the cyber criminals behind them. REvil spent some time going dark after Kaseya, with the main spokesperson for REvil eventually disappearing. Just a couple of months after that happened, REvil popped back up, but when they resumed operations, they did not realize that law enforcement had already taken control of some of their command and control servers. So the criminal group restored backups from the law enforcement controlled servers. Whoops! But does this truly matter? Will another ransomware group pop up in its place? Will REvil be rebranded into another term for future criminal campaigns? These are all questions that we don't exactly know the answer to, but will likely play a very important role, and we need to pay attention to. Ukrainian law enforcement disclosed a major cyber attack on several different government websites which happened this past weekend. Affected sites included the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, the Ukrainian Cabinet, and the Ministry of Education and Science, for example. In total, over 70 sites were attacked, 10 of which websites were subjected to unauthorized interference, meaning that they were defaced. No personal data was accessed or stolen, even though the attackers left messages on the domains for several of these sites stating otherwise. Some of these sites do store personally identifying information such as electronic passports and vaccine certificates. Now, an investigation is underway by Ukraine's Cyber Police Department, as well as the State Special Communications Service and the Ukraine Security Service. Some websites were restored as early as Friday morning, while others were still offline. By the end of the day, law enforcement was able to say, quote, with high probability that it was a supply chain attack against the infrastructure of a commercial company that had rights to administer the web resources affected by the attack. So how did this happen? Well, sources claim that the compromised sites were using an outdated October CMS, which is vulnerable to CVE 2021 32648, which is a critical authentication flaw, allowing admin takeover of accounts. Now, this was fixed last year, but some sites did not apply this patch. Law enforcement confirmed this vulnerability was used. But the next question is, who was at fault? Well, some speculated Russia may be involved because the attacks happened just hours after economic sanctions were renewed against Russia by the EU for another 6 months, and because of Russia's threats to invade the country. Ukraine's Digital Transformation Ministry also stated that evidence points to Russian involvement, while Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council suspects Belarusian intelligence were behind the attack. Now, Belarus is allied with Russia, though no country was formally attributed to the attack until Sunday. At that time, Ukraine did formally accuse Russia for the attack, saying all evidence points to them, and Russia denied the accusations. In similar news, Microsoft's Threat Intelligence Center also found a malware operation that is targeting Ukrainian organizations that first appeared on January 13th. The malware in this case is designed to look like ransomware, but includes no recovery options or payout options. It's just meant to be destructive. This malware is being called Whispergate and is targeting government, nonprofit, and IT orgs in Ukraine. The malware overwrites the master boot record, the MBR, then retrieves a file corruptor malware which is hosted via a Discord channel. Russia may not be physically invading Ukraine at the time of recording, but the country is definitely under siege digitally. Big shout out to my Hush Puppy Perk level patrons for sharing their fur baby photos. We got a new one this week. And for the support, my Patreon exclusive live video hangout happens this week. So if you did not see that information on Patreon, go check the website now. And you can also access it if you join anytime before Thursday morning. Now let's go ahead and finish out today's episode with my Patreon pick for a top story. I did a poll and y'all voted for this one. It's all about a router vulnerability. If you use a router made by Netgear, TP-Link, Tenda, Edimax, D-Link, or Western Digital, your device could be affected by a major vulnerability that could allow an attacker to execute code in the kernel. Now this is tracked as CVE 2021 45388, and it is a high severity remote code execution flaw. It was originally found by Sentinel Labs researchers and stems from a kernel module which is called NetUSB, made by K-Codes, which allows remote devices to interact with USB devices whenever they get plugged into a router that includes a USB port on it. The researchers discovered an integer overflow that could happen because a code segment on the kernel module does not validate the size value for the kernel memory allocation call. Now, there are some restrictions that could make this attack a little bit harder to implement, but it's still possible. SentinelOne worked with K-Codes to ensure a patch was released back in September and October timeframe, and the vendors were contacted in November with firmware updates scheduled for December. A list of affected models has not been disclosed, but SentinelOne has not seen any evidence of this vulnerability being exploited in the wild. It's still advised to update accordingly as soon as security updates and patches are made available to routers made by these brands, as this could potentially affect millions of devices worldwide. Hey, do you want to see more tech videos from me? You can check out my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Shannon Morse for everything from tech reviews to security tutorials. And with that, do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel as well. I'm Shannon Morse, and I'll see you on the internet.